I was born and grew up in France. My parents are from West Africa, Mali and Ivory Coast. So most of my life I spent in France, from northern France to Paris, where I am now.
Mhm.
Um, my background was not really in beauty because I started in international business and went to the UK to finish my bachelor in business studies. But then gradually, like I did my first internship in the US and it was in the retail business. But I was not passionate at all. Like the only part that I liked was the international part, not really the business part. So I needed to, really figure out what I wanted to do. And from my teenage time, I was always, plaiting my hair and doing my own style. I was already, wearing head wraps and stuff. So I was really already into styling. And, an African family in Europe, large family, that in terms of clothes, it's
Yeah.
like a heritage from your eldest sister to, so vintage have always been part of my life. So you just needed to make your clothes your own. So I would cut my clothes, I would do some crazy stuff. And that's how the styling part was always, something that I would do naturally. But then I would also be good at drawing, but didn't know that it could lead me to makeup because I was like a tomboy. I was really close to my brother. So yeah, after my time in the UK, I was like, you need to figure out what you really want to do because you can't just like browse in life like that. And unfortunately, I got sick. So I had to stay to come back to my mom's place, and it actually was the perfect time to reflect on myself and what I really wanted to do. And after a few researches and you do some tests to know what your main interest is and whatnot,
Mhm.
gradually realized that the beauty world was really what I really wanted to do. So I needed to find out how I could just like take a U-turn and go to this path without making my mom freaking out because I wanted to become a hairdresser.
Yeah. The African
So
journey. Right.
right. So fast forward, I realized that I could do trainings while exploring the field. So that's what I've done. I've started with Givenchy, the perfume brand, yeah, here in Paris.
Amazing.
But they also had makeup, so that's actually how I started to play around with makeup. But then obviously this is not when I realized that makeup was for me. But gradually, because the challenge with this brand is that it was obviously a brand for French and white people, I could make it my own, so I could attract a lot of customers. And then I interacted with different makeup artists. And then while I was working in the Grand Magasin Galerie Lafayette, I could see people working for MAC, and I was like, these guys are having fun and they're working. Here I am bored like nobody about what I'm doing. So people would come to me and say, "Oh, do you work for Mac?" And I'm like, "No." And said, "Okay." So it would just come to me like that, like you should be there, right? So I got to know that to apply for this position, you needed to either, be a makeup artist or at least being able to provide a portfolio, which I didn't have, and I never did any makeup class. So I decided to buy a camera and a makeup kit, and then I would start practicing myself and trying to take my pictures. And so and of course I love traveling. So I would take one of my friend and we would go to the Reunion Island, and because she was from there, and then I would start doing my thing. Came back, applied, didn't work. But then I found another opportunity in a more complete shop because it was actually I forgot to say that during my time with Givenchy, I could not only work for perfumes but also skincare, which was also one of my passions. Um, and then and then when I came back, I was like, okay, I actually want to explore the beauty field. I just don't want just I was not just interested in, as being a makeup artist. So whenever I could find an opportunity, I would go for it. So I worked for this new concept store called Coloris. I mean, back then it was a new concept store where you could see skincare, makeup, and hair for dark skins.
Yeah.
So I worked there for a year. And that's when while I was working there, that Mac was opening in the same mall. And the HR saw me and gave me her card. So you see that whatever has to come to you, just come, right? So I started to work with them for like 5 years. Gradually became a manager, and I worked in the biggest shop that we have in the Champs-Élysées, the biggest. So I was manager there.
Wow.
But then I got to know that they were opening the African market. So I was like, I was kind of like done with what I was doing in France, and I always wanted to go back to the continent, even if I was born in France. While I was working at MAC, I had different opportunities to work on fashion shows in Cameroon, which, by the way, the post that I've done today on my page is one of them. It was a photo shoot that I've done in Cameroon, which was one of my first festivals there on the continent. And then I was like, yeah, I just love the fashion. I love the vibe. Of course, it's not perfect. There's a lot of things to do compared to what you would see on the fashion scene in the Western countries. But I was just passionate about that. So I applied for the position and I became the first trainer for MAC for Africa. So we've opened in Nigeria, where I was based, Lagos, and gradually all the countries, among them my country, Ivory Coast. So I would go to Ghana, to Ivory Coast, to Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Zambia, and then just like train and develop makeup artists. So that's how I just worked on the continent, and here I am now, 3 years later, because I left 6 years ago. And now I'm working as a full-time consultant, because I finished my contract with MAC, and it's been a few years that I'm now in and out of Africa doing what I love the most.
That is amazing, because like the story is just really beautiful and awesome. Just one moment, I want to say hi to everybody who's joined us, by the way. Thank you guys for waving and just your beautiful like comments. You guys are being nice. You guys are being really sweet. Thanks. So nice to meet you guys. We're basically just talking with Nallah, and I'm sure like for those of you that just joined, you got to thank you, vloggermson. Did I pronounce that right?
Vogel, no, I guess.
That's an amazing name. Yeah, really easy to pronounce too. Thank you. So by the way, so we're just talking about her kind of story up until this point, and kind of the summary of it is she didn't start off this way. Also the whole concept of an African family in a European setting and all that stuff. And then she did some international business administration somewhere in there, and eventually found her way here. And it was all about being at the right place, the right time, I think, right? Because, for example, the MAC executive that kind of reached out to you was because you were already kind of in the right space for that opportunity, right? Yeah, so that's truly amazing. And I mean, right now I'm not even gonna just say too much. You're truly amazing, and I'm in awe of talking to you right now, so why not? Yeah, so okay, so now we know who Nallah Sangaré is. Okay, so we know that she is a hairstylist. We know that you are a creative director. You are you're kind of in the fashion space, so you do a lot of beauty and fashion. You're actually a writer as well. I did see your write-up for 2 editions ago for Libelle, which was really nice as well. So you do all these things, right? So how do you balance like all of this together? Like, because You are like a jack of all trades. You're a Renaissance woman. How do you do that?
See,
Sorry, 1 second. By the way, guys, if you have any questions for Nala, please put it in the comments. Let's know. Let's talk, okay? And by the way, Nala, go right ahead. Thank you.
thank you. So the fact is, I think the fact that I didn't do any, defined route, allowed in me to really float and just find my path. And all along, I would take every experience as an opportunity to learn something. So, um, telling stories is something that I've always loved, and I didn't forget. Can you imagine I forgot your question?
No, 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 no. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. It's all right. Okay, okay. So I mean, like, you do all these many things, right?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Okay,
how do
okay.
you balance it all, and like,
Yes,
how do you manage
yeah.
all that?
Okay. So
No
no,
worries.
multitasking. I don't think I'm multitasking. I'm actually just doing what I like. I'm passionate about beauty, and for me, beauty is not just being a makeup artist. Because without my skills in skincare, I wouldn't be the makeup artist that I am today. If I couldn't have an understanding of a full look, I couldn't really, I would feel limited, that you will need someone else to do this and this and that. And the reality is also that sometimes when you work on projects, you might not be sensitive to everyone's artistry. So I also decided that, yeah, I just want to be a full package so I can provide something more complete and also have a better understanding of the whole creativity process and the fact that now I'm working for myself as an entrepreneur allow me to do what I want. So for me, when I say I'm a makeup artist, tomorrow I'll do a bride. The next day I will work on set for a fashion show. I would also go and work with kids like last December and do some makeup for
Really?
kids. Yeah, so
That's
it's really that like everything that has to do with makeup I would do it,
wow.
and then I'm not scared about the fact that I might not have the skill because I will then break it down and try to understand and then I'll do it. Like the first time that I was on a movie to do special effects, I was like, first of all, I don't like blood, so it was complicated. But then you just need to process it and just try to understand, okay, what do they need? A scar. Okay, let me just try and see how I can make it happen. And then because I'm really, curious, I would go for it and then, make it happen.
Yeah, wow. And I mean, also another thing you forgot to, I mean, I think just to add to that, I think it's also the fact that you learn, not just the fact that you know, you're just exploring something new or understand the full process. You're actually learning something new. And
For sure. As a
that's
as a
really
trainer
amazing.
myself, I can tell you that going for 3 years all across the continent, I was teaching, yes, but I was learning a lot from the makeup artists that I would
Wow.
train or the people that I would work with on the fashion shows, the South African Fashion Week. So it's really I love this field because it's full of creativity and we can learn from so many people.
That's it. I mean, creativity is everything. Creativity fills the world. By the
Yes.
way, just saying hi to Vlogumson. Thank you. He says that he loves your work.
Oh, thank you.
So sweet. And then Abby Lights says, of course, she loves your work. You're doing well. Of course. I mean, it's Nala. Nala is awesome. And she says, oh, LaBelle's host is beautiful. I know. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Right? I mean,
I play too much. I'm just joking. Thank you so much, Abby Light. Love you too. Okay, so another question for me though
Mhm.
is like I want to know because you're creative. I'm also kind of like a creative as well. What inspires you? What's your muse? Where do you get all that vibe from? Inspiration. Where does that come from for you?
Uh, First, I love colors, and I've always been that kid who would look at the sky. People would find it weird that I could spend so many hours looking at the clouds and I would imagine some shapes and You know, it could take me for some hours to do
That
that.
is
Yeah.
interesting.
And
Okay.
then, like, I've always loved watching documentary, you know, animals and stuff like that. So landscapes always fascinated me in that sense. And then I've been fortunate to be able to travel quite a lot. So definitely based on the places that I would see, the cultures that I would explore and discover. And obviously, social media also helps a lot because I follow a lot of Afro slash whatever, everything that is linked to Africa, I would follow it. So yeah, my main inspiration come from the people and the landscape.
Mhm.
Obviously, because I've been in Africa these past years, mainly African, but definitely from everywhere. I love creating, and I just sometimes spend time, you know, doing stuff, and I don't even know what I'm doing, but at the end, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
So yeah.
think, yeah,
Mm.
I think that also goes to show that the best, you know, the most oh, sorry.
Sorry, you were talking about muse. My main muses are the models, because I forgot to say that I also manage models, African
Mhm.
models. So I have a few girls that I've always loved to do the makeup on, and are the perfect canvas to really reveal the creativity that I would have. But then any woman definitely, and anyone actually, because I also do makeup on men,
Mhm.
would be a perfect canvas for what I have in mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So like you just need an empty canvas, colors, a
Yeah.
beautiful inspiration in wherever it goes. Yeah, I totally understand that. I
Mhm.
completely do that. And I think the best things that we achieve are usually unplanned. Like you don't set out to
Exactly.
really,
Exactly.
yeah.
We try to structure, of course, sometimes if there's some guidance, create a mood board where you will just visually kind of, you know, have a cutout of images, you know,
Hmm.
just to give you the direction.
Hmm.
But the end result is never what I would plan anyway. So I'm
And
not
that's
too
the
hard
beauty.
on myself, and I don't fit in any box anyway. So that's why I don't try to even, you know, go to a certain direction. I just follow what I feel.
Yeah. I absolutely appreciate that you said you don't fit in any box because that's one of the things I really like connect with when it comes to your story is that like you're so many different things and you let yourself be, you
It
know,
took me
be
some
all
time.
these different things. Of course, I
Because everyone wants you to fit in a box, or like even when you present yourself, you have to find a title.
hmm
uh, can't really say what I am, but you can only see what I do when I do it, because I don't limit myself. So I learn, as you said, every day. So tomorrow I can also be maybe a photographer, which I'm working on now.
Oh
So
wow.
it's really, yeah, I'm not set on anything. I'm just exploring my path, and I just enjoy the journey.
Yeah, wow. Okay, cool. I'm gonna take my time, you know. I'm gonna wait and see what I can define. I absolutely agree with you in that. Like everyone needs to have a square to say you are this, and when you're like, you know, divergent, it's
And
like,
it's not easy. To be honest with you, I suffered quite some times after, you know, when I decided to take my own path. You need to set the business. Like, what is it that you want to do? And I would start. I mean, I've always had my social media, so I would always share what I do. And the first thing that people will say is, "You're everywhere." Like it's almost as if it's a problem. You're everywhere. Yes, I'm everywhere. But what do you do exactly? Like I don't know what you mean when you want to say exactly, because
exactly.
I do so many things. So
Yeah.
that was almost like a reproach. Like can you just choose one thing? A lot of people until today will tell me just choose one thing, master it, and then you can go in any direction. But everything is so logical and linked to for me that I
Hmm.
don't want to do that, you know? And I've done a video, I think it was 2 years ago, and because I have a YouTube channel, and I just sat down and tried to share my story because I needed to um, maybe even hear it myself to get to explain to people, hello, Nabu, um,
Hi,
to
Nabu.
to explain to people who I am so you could understand why I can't really fit in any box. And
Mhm.
it's okay for me not to fit in any box from my style to, the work that I do. I don't want to fit in any box. I want to fit in every box.
You know what? Let's take it a step further. There is no box. Like there's, you know
Exactly.
what? Let's do this. Let's just end it.
Right?
Let's end it there.
Right?
This
No
joke.
box.
Yeah. Abel God says, I can't really say what I am, but you can see what I do. I got that, and I think that that's gonna be the quote of the day. Is like, it's like, you know what? This is what
Yeah.
this is it. This is it. This is like the drop the mic moment that we have on
Right?
this show today. Because really though, I'm so impressed by exactly what you're saying, because it's like asking a creative like yourself to write a CV. It's
Yeah.
like, where do you want me to start? What do you want me to do? And that kind of thing. And it's just hard for people to really understand that. But I'm gonna say this, something I read a while ago. It says, jack of all trades, master of none. And this is where people always stop, right? But I think when I went to go do the research for what it means, or what it fully means, it says jack of all trades, master of none, but always better than the master of one. Like that's
Wow.
the full,
Yeah.
because you know so much and you can give so much
Yeah.
that there's just so much to give. You would always be relevant, you will always be useful, you will always make impact, and that's just beautiful. So
Exactly.
yeah, I love that. I love how we went down that path. It's just so
Nabu is
wonderful.
saying that telling story, what did she say? Telling
That the
story.
story gives clarity.
And that's what it is. Definitely. And that's why I also love doing these, interaction because you also allow me to talk in a way that I wouldn't imagine. And even that quote now that I'm gonna copyright.
Oh,
Like the first time was BBC Africa when I was in Nairobi, and I was like, why do they want to know about me? Like, but you're something, and we just want to understand, and try. And she managed to present me in a minute. So I was like, oh, cool. So if it's possible,
it can be
then
done.
to kind of like try to understand who's that girl.
Yeah, exactly. You know what?
Um,
I actually saw that. Thank you for bringing it up. I saw the BBC video and I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to a celebrity. But I saw the video and I know the answer to this question, but I just want you to say it because it was so cool when you said it in the video. What is your style? What is your define your style? Because,
so
yeah.
based on the heritage of the vintage, I would say Afro retro chic, and it catch everything, and I would even add a touch of urban because there's always something as a street
Yeah.
style, like the fact that I like to be comfortable in my clothes as
Mhm.
well, even if it's chic. The chic obviously comes from the French touch, and the retro from the vintage part that I spoke to you about, which is the family environment that I grew up in. And then Afro, because my mom, I used to steal my mom's clothes, basically. And that's how my African, fashion sense of fashion started. Still,
Mm.
I still
Still
go
is.
in her go and
I mean,
get
look at your earrings. That enough said. Like, I
Oh
can
wow!
see Africa there. I'm like,
Like
girl,
people, if you don't know where I'm from,
just in case you're confused,
then I don't know.
it's
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah,
um,
jewelries, accessories are just for me like
yeah.
necessary. Like I just need them, and exploring all these local markets and sharing with all these local designers on the continent just give me life. Like that's my hobby. That's why sometimes when they ask me what is your hobby, and I'm like, oh, I don't know, because everything is always related to what I do. But I would say walking around and do African markets is something that I love doing.
They love to do. You know what's funny? I had that question kind of like on the list Thank you for I was like, what do you do apart from all that you do, you know? Like I know you do 100 things, but then again, I'm like, that's who you are. It's just
Yeah.
being that person. So, oh, by the way,
It,
Nabu Love says Nallah is one of the best makeup artists ever. Thank
oh,
you,
thank
Nabu.
you.
You're
We know
so. Oh, you know what, Nabu? Like you're the MVP of this show.
she's so cool. And funny enough, we only know each other from social media. I
Oh
haven't
wow.
met her yet, but I love what she also does. She's a very smart
Wow.
woman. She's amazing, amazing.
Wow. Thank you, Nabu. I'm gonna definitely check out your page after this because I need to know more about
Yeah,
you. You're
you
so
have
sweet.
to.
You're very sweet. Okay, so just two more questions.
Yeah.
The first one would be what does the African identity mean for you? So what is your like I know you've talked about the African identity and how that is one of your inspirations and that's where you get it from, but or we can even make it easier. In 3 words, or give me 3 words that describes your African identity, just 3 words or 5. Yeah.
It's so funny. I've done a campaign back then, and to help me to answer to this question, I just needed to take Africa as an acronym, and for
Mm-hmm.
each letter, I could find a word that represent Africa for me. So
Yeah.
I can remember. I mean, I won't remember. So definitely the warmth of the continent is something that from the obviously the weather to the people and the sense of community that we have in our culture, uh, which is the second word, by the way, culture. The richness of our cultures is just endless, and I'm still exploring it. And I'm just passionate about Africa in any ways. Um, what else? What
So
else?
that's
The
the
pride,
two: warmth and culture. Third.
yeah, and the pride of the continent. And
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that we should be even more proud of who we are. And part of my mission is definitely to uplift through what I do, people from the continent to be more proud of who we are. I would go to all my international meetings with the same attire. People will look at me like, hey, welcome to America.
She is in. She is here. She's who
Like,
we've been waiting for.
so yeah, because through the pride you have more self-esteem, and through the self-esteem, then you can do everything that you want to do. So definitely the pride.
Wow. Okay. So I love that warmth, culture, and pride. And warmth I connect with so much because it's just warmth in every way. Everybody's in
Yeah,
everybody's business. Everyone is just it's so interconnected and so strong and so beautiful.
yeah.
And that I really connect with. And final thing. Anyways, guys, I didn't get any questions from others yet, so I'm just gonna ask the final question. Oh, do you have a question for me, by the way? No? No? No. Okay. A final question would be so what do you have to say? Because I know right now the world is kind of shut down. You're in France right now, right?
Yeah,
Usually you're in Nairobi, but you're in France right now.
yeah,
Um, and I know it's crazy, especially now. We can't leave until May 14th, May 11th, right? We
yeah,
can, I
yeah.
think.
11.
And I
Yeah.
hope it's not extended. There's a part of me that's like, oh, that's coming.
I don't think I would be able if they could just postpone
Yeah,
it.
we need air. We need to go
Yeah.
outside, like but what do you have to say to everybody to kind of, just keep us going strong right now? What few words, just to keep everybody strong?
I think that nobody realized how fortunate we are because time is priceless. And